3, 2, 1. Watch your step as your eyes begin to adjust to the dark. So, everyone, these caverns formed over the course of many, many years. Originally, Florida used to be submerged under a vast, shallow sea, and in that sea was marine life. Whenever that marine life passed away, the remains would sink to the ocean floor, and over time those remains would accumulate and compress into limestone, which is what this cave is comprised of. Eventually, the ocean over Florida receded, and cavities, little openings, began to form inside the limestone. Once those cavities grew large enough, formations began to appear, which we'll see plenty of along our tour today. Now, if you look down there, you will see our basement. This is the deepest point of the cavern. It's about 65 feet below the surface. Now, luckily for us, we will not have to go into the basement. Instead, we will take an alternate route called the tuck and squeeze over there. Trust me, it's a lot better than it sounds. Now, remember, as we make our way through here, watch your head, watch your step, and watch out for any slippery spots, like puddles or wet floors. Just be careful when you make your way through here, okay? All right, on we go. This room is what we call the wedding room, and that's because of the two formations behind me, which we dubbed the wedding cake and the pipe organs. Now, these two formations actually inspired a tradition that we've kept up with all the way to the present day, where couples come down here and get married together. We host about 2 to 3 weddings a year, and the couples come up here onto this altar and get married together. Just a little fun fact I'd like you guys to know. Now, those formations and all the other formations that we'll see on our tour today are formed by water. Water seeping down from the surface. When the water seeps through the ground, it collects minerals as it goes. And once it reaches the inside of the cavern, it deposits those minerals. Usually, the water seeps from the ceiling, introducing us to our first and most common type of formation, known as dripstone. They are hollow in the middle, which easily lets water pass through, kind of like a soda straw. Eventually, a dripstone will grow into a stalactite, closing up in the middle. However, water will continue to drip down the stalactite onto the ground, slowly building up a stalagmite. Eventually, a stalactite and stalagmite will get to know each other and grow attached, literally, merging in the middle to form a column. And sometimes, instead of dripping through a cave, water will flow through it, creating formations like the drapery, as you can see over there. These form when water runs along a single path down a slanted surface, slowly building out a thin sheet of limestone. These go by many nicknames: curtains, bat wings, elfin ears, and my personal favorite, cave bacon. Cave bacon. Now, if y'all don't have any particular questions for this area, we will make our way on over to the next. Remember to watch your head and watch your step as you make your way through. Okay, so beneath this aquifer is I got my words mixed up. Beneath this cave system, is this area's local aquifer. We use water from that aquifer. And when we use water from the aquifer, it can cause the water level to lower. This can also cause the limestone around the aquifer to change and shift around, sometimes causing fractures. As you can see there, the floor moved downward a little bit, which snapped that column clean in half. Now, fractures like these are not permanent, as given enough time, they will merge back together, making a line going through the middle, as you can see there. You might also notice that that formation is looking a little pale. That is because of the type of mineral being deposited into it. In this case, that formation is being colored by calcite, which comes from seashells and bones. There's also a few other examples of mineral coloration in this room, like over there, for instance. This formation is being colored by manganese. It comes from the topsoil. You can also find manganese in the cave water down here, although I don't suggest you drink it, because as it turns out, manganese is also found in laxative. We don't need any more formations down here, but we do appreciate the contributions. Now, currently we call this room the fracture room because of the aforementioned fractured column, but it wasn't always called that. Back in the day, we used to call this room the Donald Duck room for a special formation that looks like a duck. You can see the beak there and its body, and even a little flipper on the bottom. Man, Donald Duck has really let himself go over the years, huh? All right. So, if y'all don't have any particular questions for this area, we will again make our way over to the next. Remember to watch your head and watch your step as you make your way through. Okay, so this area is what we call the South America room, and that's because of a unique rimstone pool formation over there that just so happened to form into the shape of South America. If you want to see the South America pool for yourselves, you can go up along this path, take a gander, and loop back around the other side after you're finished. that is the South America pool. The water in it is almost perfectly still because there's nothing disturbing it. So it sits there, motionless.
That's awesome.
Now, for those of y'all looping back around after seeing the South America pool, there's another thing you can find. If you stand near this spot and shine a light up, you'll actually find a shark tooth embedded inside the limestone. Up there. That brown point is a shark tooth.
How did that even get there?
Well, a shark passed away near this spot, and its tooth slowly settled downward through the limestone and is now poking out of the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
Now, everybody, for maximum effect, I suggest y'all turn off and put away any potential light sources, like an iPhone or a smartwatch, or anything that'll light up in the dark too much. All right? I'll flick the switch in 3, 2, 1. Imagine now having to put up with this darkness almost daily, Well, some folk back in the day did have to put up with this darkness, and they were workers. Workers employed by an organization known as the CCC, which stood for Civilian Conservation Corps. The workers would come down to the caverns with pickaxes, shovels, and other tools to dig up the limestone, and then lay down a cement path through it for tourism. They would also use lanterns to light their way forward. However, their lanterns were not very bright overall. They only emitted the same amount of light as a lighter would. So about this much light or so. Not that much light. This, however, gave somebody an idea. So one day, they brought a bowl down to the caverns and stuck it up inside the ceiling. They then put their lantern right up next to the bowl, causing the light to be reflected back down into the room, making it brighter overall. This idea was so good that they used it throughout the rest of the caverns, and that is why you'll see bowls stuck up in the ceiling along our tour today. He probably got a raise right afterwards. All right, let there be lights. Now, everybody, we're going to make our way over to the next room. Remember to be careful and watch out for this brown spot on the ground. It's a stalagmite slowly forming, and you can very easily trip on it. All right then. So, if y'all remember me talking about how the limestone formed, you might remember me saying that it formed from marine life remains from way back then. Well, as it turns out, portions of the ceiling here used to be part of a coral colony. You can tell them apart because they're spongier than usual, with a lot of holes in them. You'll find plenty of seashells strewn about, and even some fossils here and there. Like over here. If you look at it from this way, you will find the fossil of a sea urchin. embedded inside the limestone. So for those of y'all looping back around after you were finished exploring, you can actually find another thing here. Etched into the limestone to my left here, you can actually find the cave's heart. Right there. That heart shape, that is the cave's heart. The cave has plenty of love to go around. That's why if a water droplet lands on you, that's what we call a cave kiss. That means the cave likes you. And if you get 3 cave kisses, that means the cave really likes you. And you get good luck for the rest of the day. Alright, so everyone, we're going to make our way over to the next room along this path called the Enchanted Forest. Now be careful, as there are puddles on the ground, stalactites overhead, and 2 large holes on the left of the path. So watch your head and watch your step as you make your way through. Hole 1, hole 2. This area is actually where the caverns were originally discovered, back in 1937 by a man named Oliver Chalifot. Oliver discovered the caverns after a storm hit the area, uprooting a tree that revealed a hole leading down to this room. You can actually see where this original hole was up there, now being blocked off by a metal sheet. Now, around the time when Oliver discovered the caverns, America was being put through the ringer. We were suffering through an economic crisis widely known as the Great Depression. Everyone was struggling at that time, which spurred the president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, to sign the New Deal. This actually led to the CCC's creation. Their job was to give people jobs. And as soon as they caught wind of these caverns, they got to work and employed folk to come down here. The workers would earn about $1 a day, which accumulated to $30 a month. They would then send 25 of those dollars to their families, making 5 in total. They would also earn food, water, and shelter in return for their labor, which was considered a pretty good deal back in the day. The workers would start working on the caverns in 1938 and working it for 4 years before opening it up for tourism in 1942. What's its name, you may ask? Well, it goes by many. It's called the Rock of Many Names. And the reason it earned this title was because workers who came through here would occasionally trip on this rock, hit their head on the stalactite overhead, and proceed to call the rock many names. Caused a lot of headaches during its reign. Now, the reason why the rock is smoothed down like this is actually a little interesting. The workers would tie a rope around this rock and use it as a tether point to make their way back to the entrance whenever their lanterns went out, which is very easy to do. You can actually see what their lanterns looked like up on the ceiling. Now, the actual lanterns they used were a little smaller because they would attach it to their helmets. But this is the same kind of lantern. They were called carbine lanterns. All right, so everybody, I like to call this room the Room of Imagination. And that's because whenever somebody gets hungry in this area, they can imagine themselves a nice 3-course meal. Like up there, a stuffed turkey with 2 legs and a body. And for a healthy side, they can imagine themselves some carrots dotting the ceiling. And then for dessert, some sweet potatoes. And after one is done eating their imaginary food, they can watch an imaginary film, a niche indie title called The Titanic. See the shadow against the wall?
Yes.
One can even watch this film all the way to the very end, like this. Sunk into the ocean. That's my favorite part of the tour. Now, everybody, there is one more very special formation that I'd like to show y'all. It's special in the fact that it allows us to break the most important rule here, the no touching rule. If y'all follow me, I will show you this special fabled relic. Okay. This right here is what I like to call the touchstone. This column was set aside many years ago to demonstrate the effects of what touching a formation too much will do to it. As you can see, it's very indented and discolored from all the contact. This column will no longer grow and will slowly wither away over time into nothing. So go ahead. You get to touch it yourself. Give it a nice little hug to make it feel better. Play rock, paper, scissors with it, or you can play patty cake if you feel inclined to. Don't lick it. When you were getting your tickets inside the gift shop, you probably heard a disclaimer that this tour would contain moderate to severe exercise. Well, we have reached the part of the tour that warrants that disclaimer. We are about to enter the catacombs, the Caverns' nasty cousin. This area has a lot of low-hanging ceilings and a lot of slippery spots on the floor. So remember to be careful and watch your head and step as you make your way through here. We're in the home stretch now, everybody. All right. So, everybody, we have one more major obstacle to get by, and it's this super low-hanging ceiling. We call it tall man's torture, short man's revenge. And unfortunately for us, we will have to go under it to resume, make our way forward, progress. Remember to watch your head and watch your step as you make your way through here. Watch out for that big puddle right there, and watch out for any low-hanging bits as you exit tall man's torture, short man's revenge. Ay, 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 ay. Is everyone all right? Yep. Nice. All right. So now we just need to get around this big old chandelier here. You can go left or right around it. I prefer going right around it as it's easier, but if you're feeling like a daredevil, you can take the left path instead. All right. Oh, by the way, make sure not to knock down that critical support beam.
Oh, dear.
It's holding up the entire cavern. Anyways, that will be a wrap for our tour today. We've managed to make our way to the exit, back to the outside world.
Yay.
I hope you all have had a wonderful time down in our caverns, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all so much for coming to our caverns, everybody.
Thank you for the tour.
Thank you. Aww. All right.